Her picture was in the back bedroom, and she was at the rail of a ship, and there was blue sky and blue water in the background. And actually, my dad had taken the three of us kids to the cemetery where my natural mother, Josephine, was. We didn't talk much about her because out of respect to the wonderful woman whom we called Mom, so it wasn't a dark, but it was kind of a deep secret, and I yearned to know more. So one day I found myself alone with my dad in the car, and this was a rare opportunity. My dad worked a lot, and usually if we were traveling, it was all of us. So there I was, perched on the bench seat of a 52 Plymouth. My little 7-year-old legs were too short for me to sit back and have them go over the edge. So I perched on the edge, and I was free to ask him, just like I was free to move around the car. It had no seat belts. So I said, what was she like? What happened? And my dad started to tell the story about how when she was pregnant with me, a time when my sister would have just turned two, and my brother had just turned 1, that they found a lump on her breast, and they went to the doctor, and it was a form of melanoma. And the doctor said that he could take care of that, but that the treatment would put at risk the child within her. And my mother immediately said that there is nothing she would do to put her child at risk. And my dad courageously agreed. The car started going up a hill, and the engine started straining. It provided a suitable score to the story that my dad was telling. And he shared how after I was born, an event in June of 1958, they had some work done at the hospital, and the car continued to strain. Talked about how in November of that year, she had to go back to the hospital, and how on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, he got a call at work, and they said, you need to come in. And the doctors had informed him that she would need to stay a little longer. So he went to her room, and she had gotten out of bed, and she said, I want to go home. And he explained that the doctor said she'd have to stay for a while. So she weakly got back into bed, and she went home. I was tearily staring out the window, and I was looking at an Esso gas sign that said $29.9 a gallon. But out of the corner of my eye, I could see my dad was shifting gears. He took that 3 on a tree and rammed it up into second. And the car changed from struggling to like a surge ahead. And he turned to me, and I turned to him, and he slapped me on the leg, and he said, I guess we traded you for her. Now that seems like a really odd thing to say to a 7-year-old boy, but my dad's an accountant. He teaches accounting. So to see the world in a metaphor of credits and debits along a ledger sheet and a balance sheet was a natural and yet still a loving act. But for me, it sparked a sudden realization that this wasn't just a tragic accident. This wasn't just something, this was a consequence of a mother making a selfless and loving and courageous decision. And my father likewise. 50 years later, on a Thanksgiving weekend, I went to visit my mom at the cemetery. And in a scene that was very much like the final scene in Saving Private Ryan, where an elderly James P. Ryan goes to the gravesite of the Captain Miller who saved him. I went to my mom's grave, and I fell to my knees. And I was suddenly overwhelmed by a realization, a reawakening of the magnanimity of what I had received. And I started sobbing, and my wife, who was with me, had never seen me sob like that before. And I got up, and to complete the parallel with the movie, I was groping and grasping for a way to repay or validate what I had received. And I hugged her, and I said, have I been a good man? And she nodded. We walked to the car. I'm still wet, and I got into my dad's Volkswagen that I was borrowing. I looked down on the stick shift, and I saw reverse, but I didn't put it there. I put it into first, and I eased off the clutch, and we surged forward, because every day I get to wake up, and I celebrate having a ton of gifts of times and treasures and talents of families and friends, but they all emanate from this one gift that I get to wake up every day and decide how I'm going to unwrap it and open it and play with it and enjoy it. This gift, which I received thanks to the selfless and courageous, loving and living choice that Joseph and Josephine made.